Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. Michael Matt down here in the catacombs with some good news. We are actually going to be leaving the catacomb next week and heading over to France for the Notre-Dame de Chrétienté pilgrimage. Now, that is French for Our Lady of Christendom, and it is an organization of laymen who have reestablished the ancient Chartres pilgrimage. And this is the French leg of the Santiago de Compostela pilgrimage. It's about a 70-mile, 3-day walk, 2 nights. They use tents, bivouacs as they call them, and people sleep on the ground and walk for 3 days. It's an incredible event, and when there's been so much bad news, it's to me anyway, it's very encouraging to think that there are still so many people who are committed to this idea of Catholic identity that they're willing to put on what amounts to an incredible display, if you will, of Catholicism in the streets of Paris and Chartres in France. France is losing its Catholic identity. I don't know where the mass attendance figure is now, but it's way down below 10% of French Catholics still even bother attending Mass on Sunday. But there is a very, very strong traditional Catholic movement in France, both in the Society of St. Pius X and outside. And Notre-Dame de Chrétienté represents the initiative that's been underway for several years, actually for 30 years. This pilgrimage began, again, it was sort of rejuvenated 30 years ago. But great saints such as St. Joan of Arc, King Louis IX, St. Louis IX, have walked it, the exact same historic route from Paris to Chartres. And this organization began this pilgrimage again after World War II. During the war period, the pilgrimage died out. There were different reasons throughout history where this pilgrimage sort of seemed to have died the death, and then life was breathed back into it. So about 30 years ago, this organization again breathed life into the ancient pilgrimage to Chartres. Michael Davies, our great friend, and the late great Michael Davies, I should say, called the Chartres pilgrimage the greatest and most important event happening anywhere in the church on an annual basis, and I agree with him. So what you have to imagine is the Saturday before the pilgrimage, some 10,000 people, mostly young people. The average age of the pilgrim on the Chartres pilgrimage is 20 years old. So imagine, if you will, Notre-Dame in Paris, which is fast turning into a virtual museum, even though it is still used as a church. It has more of an historic appreciation, and lots of tourists come there and so forth throughout the year. But now, for this one weekend, the old cathedral is transformed back to the point and purpose for which it was built. And it is an incredible thing to be a part of and just to witness. So imagine that cathedral just being packed out with tradition-minded Catholics from all over the world, from Australia, from Germany, from England, of course, from France, from the United States, coming together at 6:30 in the morning before the sun even comes up. And they enter the cathedral. We pack the cathedral out. And usually there's a representative from the Archdiocese in Paris, but there are as many as 200 and 300 priests, traditional priests, from all over the world who process into the cathedral once it is packed full of pilgrims. And they have a traditional sort of medieval style send-off ceremony in which prayers are said and hymns are sung to send the pilgrims on their way. And this ceremony only lasts for about a half an hour, and then with statues of saints and of Our Lady, actually at the very head of the pilgrimage is Our Lady of Christendom herself. The statue is carried, and she's very heavy. Some years ago, our chapter, the U.S. chapter, actually was responsible for carrying that statue, and it takes 4 men to carry this beautiful statue of Our Lady at the very head of this column, which now is miles long, as it walks for 3 days from the 2 cities, from Paris to Chartres. So again, imagine, if you will, the old Notre-Dame de Paris packed out with Catholics and raising the roof with beautiful song to Our Lady, and then beginning to walk through the streets of Paris. Paris is, as you know, has become largely secularized. There's a large Muslim influence now that's concerning to people as well as Catholicism and the Catholic presence disappears, which adds so much to this event where you have 10,000 pilgrims processing through the streets of Paris with banners to the saints, statues of the saints, statues of Our Lady, Christ the King inscribed across banners and flags, walking through the streets of Paris, reminding anyone who sees, and many, many people see, I would say tens of thousands of people witness this event, of Catholicism proving once again to the world, to Paris, to France, that it has not died and that it never will die. And that's why Michael Davies and so many others, and I agree with him, have billed this event as so very important. Now, I've been the U.S. coordinator for Notre-Dame de Chrétienté for some 20 years, and we have organized the American chapter on this pilgrimage for the past 23 years. But it doesn't have anything to do with us, and that's the really unique thing about this beautiful event. No one's there to promote their own apostolate or their own business or their own newspaper or whatever. You just have this coming together of Catholics who simply want to reaffirm what it is that we believe, what it is that they believe. And they want to show the world how proud they are to be Catholics. And so the walk begins, and there's a certain sense of dread as you begin walking, especially those of us who have done it many times, on just how incredibly difficult this pilgrimage is. To walk for 12 hours each day, and just continue to walk and walk and walk, and always, as you do, knowing that the point and purpose of this is to prove not only to those who might be witnessing the event, but to prove to yourself what it is that you believe, what it is that you think it means to be Catholic. And that has everything to do with sacrifice and suffering and prayer and song, and yes, conversation. It has to do with connecting with our Catholic brothers again in a very special and unique way that can only happen on pilgrimage. And so for the next 3 days, this miles-long column of young people, the average age is 20 years old, this is mostly for young people, is together, and they worship together, they eat together, they sing together, they laugh together, they converse together for 3 days. And amazing things happen in the course of this pilgrimage, where you begin to forget about self, and you begin to forget about personal, idiosyncrasies and concerns and worries and woes, and all you think about is why God has put you on this earth. And the pilgrimage has this amazing ability to make you think thoughts like that, and to put yourself in the position of someone who is willing to try to suffer for the faith. So this happens, and there are masses in the woods, there's adoration all night long in the camps, and it's hard to explain, but I mean, things like, you might get up in the middle of the night and in the camps, and you're exhausted, you have blisters on your feet, you're just physically beat, and you'll kind of limp on down to the tent chapel where the exposition of our Lord is there all night long. And you'll see young scouts, 20-year-old virile young men, just kneeling on their knees in the wet grass outside under the stars, and just kneeling there in front of the Blessed Sacrament. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. You realize that all of the things that we believe are real, and they're worth suffering for, they're worth dying for, they're worth living for, they're worth celebrating. And there are so many little manifestations of that as you do this incredible pilgrimage. And then, of course, after 2.5 days of virtually suffering and wearing your feet to bloody stumps sometimes, you come to the city of Chartres, and there's this Gothic jewel, the old cathedral at Chartres, the anonymous work of art, that took hundreds of years to build and is unsigned. No one knows who built Chartres. It was erected by people who loved God and loved Our Lady. It's called Our Lady's Playhouse for that reason, a place where she can come and where we can be with her and she can be with us. And you have this sense that with all the problems in the church, this column of pilgrims, this dust-covered column of suffering pilgrims, become like little children. And the saints are looking down, and Our Lady is looking down, and she's seeing a manifestation of Catholicism again, which is not happening really anywhere else in the world anymore. I could go on and on about some of these thoughts of what the pilgrimage causes you to think about, like the saints looking down on this column of little children, coming to try to please Our Lady, coming to try to prove to the world and to themselves that this thing called the Catholic faith means everything to them. And so you arrive in the city of Chartres, and there's bells ringing, and you pack this cathedral, 8,000 people inside, another 8,000 outside the cathedral, and they have the traditional Latin Mass, and invariably there will be some bishops there, and hundreds of priests, and families, and young people there to celebrate the Catholic faith and to remember what it is that's been lost, what it is that needs to be restored again. So, this year, it's just always such a pleasure. At the Remnant, we've organized the U.S. chapter for 23 years. And one might think that gets a little old after a while doing the same thing, but it doesn't. Every year, just like the faith, the Chartres pilgrimage is brand new, and it's worth every sacrifice that goes into it. It changes lives. I have brought the Remnant Tours and the Remnant Readership has sponsored hundreds and hundreds of young people over the years to come to this pilgrimage, and we've seen lives changed. We've seen vocations come out of that U.S. chapter. Many marriages have come out of that U.S. chapter, and that's just our chapter. It happens throughout the whole pilgrimage. So yeah, we're going to be stepping away from the catacomb for a while, but I think it's well worth it. We will try to do whatever we can to maybe do some broadcasts from France, from the pilgrimage, especially on Facebook. So check out the Remnant's Facebook page, especially because it's very easy to upload video from phones and iPads and so forth during the pilgrimage. But most importantly, please be aware that this is happening and unite with us. Your U.S., your American co-religionists will be walking over those 3 days, and we will be praying for our country, for our church, for the Holy Father, for all the problems that are happening in the world today. And, there's no secret about it that many times when we visit together down here in the catacombs, we're talking about things that are depressing and, not too chipper, not very happy. But this event that we will be taking part of, and hopefully we'll be sharing with you video and so forth from the event, is so encouraging that I just can't say enough about it. I want to share with you the jubilation of the Chartres pilgrimage and the inspiration, because when you're done walking this pilgrimage, and this happens to me every year, you can't help but shed tears. You're overcome emotionally, physically, and spiritually by what a great and awesome thing it is to be a Catholic. And this is not something that we want to selfishly just make for ourselves or for Remnant Tours or the Remnant newspaper, but we want to share it with all of our friends and all of our allies and all of the Catholics in the world, especially in America, who are feeling discouraged and downtrodden and depressed over the way things are going. But we don't feel that this is hopeless. We feel and we know and we believe with all of our hearts that what you see at Chartres is proof positive that the gates of hell will never prevail against the Catholic Church. And there is no reason as Catholics for us to give up hope that she will be born again, because it's happened so many times in history. And the ferocious attempt that's going on right now to snuff out the last little flickering of candle light from the old faith proves to all of us that the devil knows very well that he will not be successful, that the Catholic Church will rise again, and that in the end, the gates of hell will not prevail. And if there's one thing that really comes out of the Chartres pilgrimage is that realization. Young people from all over the world who are finding out what it is to be Catholic and wanting to live it fully, live the old faith fully. Where did they come from? How did they keep their faith through all of this? It's grace. It's God's grace. So, like I say, we'll try to send some broadcasts from the pilgrimage, especially to our Facebook page, but also to YouTube, hopefully, if we can manage the technical part of things. But even so, please pray with us, be with us for this great event and this proof that no matter what happens and how dark the night might seem, that the dawn is coming and that the Church will survive and that the old faith will survive. The Chartres pilgrimage proves that year in and year out, every year. We see that, and it's only getting stronger. So I hope you'll be patient with us a little bit, because we won't be able to broadcast our usual thing next week, because from down here in the catacombs next week, because of this event. But we'll try to check in with you, and in the meantime, we're with you in spirit and ask you to join us in spirit as well on this magnificent manifestation of the reign of Christ the King and of the old Catholic faith. Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.